411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that affect us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. For your girl, 411 Live.
Milwaukee is one of the worst states when it comes to domestic violence homicides. I was looking at a statistic the other day, and it said 1 in every 6 domestic violence homicides occurs in Wisconsin. And it also said that women of color are about 2 times more likely to be killed by an intimate partner than a white woman. And I'm not even talking about domestic violence or intimate partner violence without a death. That's another number, and it's a much bigger one. Hello, everyone. I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live, Real People, Real Talk. Today, we're going to talk about unmasking intimate partner violence. And I have some terrific guests with me today. Samantha Collier and Shawn Muhammad.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Samantha is the founder of Team Teal 365, which is a survivor-driven organization to help, assist, and empower victims of sexual assault, right?
Yeah.
And then Shawn is the associate director of the ASHA Project.
Yes, ma'am.
An organization that's been around for a long time in Milwaukee and has truly made a big difference. And you also spearhead some of the men's programming, which engages men in the fight to stop violence against women.
Absolutely.
So, again, welcome. We have so much to talk about. I know during the pandemic, domestic violence was off the chain because we were all kind of cocooned inside our homes and stuff like that, and different things. Stress levels were really high.
Absolutely.
A lot of things were going on. I'm sure the numbers have come down, but it's still too high, and it's still going on.
Absolutely.
The work that you do, I think, my lens, right?
Definitely.
The work that you do, it takes a special person to do this. Because you are dealing with people in their most vulnerable state. Trauma is high. And doing that all the time can wear on people. And I find that people who are able to sustain and continue on are usually the people who say, I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
I get it. We say, okay, be empathetic and walk in their shoes. Well, I can try to walk in their shoes, but I'm not getting there. But if you've experienced it or just touched it a little bit, then you know. And if you know, they feel it.
Yeah.
And then that connection is bigger. Okay, so I say all that because I want to get to your backstories.
Okay.
That's good.
So Samantha, when I read about your organization, Team Teal 365, survivor-driven organization. So that lets me know you've been there.
Yeah.
What's happened?
One of the biggest things, thank you, Beverly, again. At least you understand the sensitivity of this conversation, right? What's happening is that being a thriver of sexual violence and also domestic violence, I had a mission, right,
Yeah.
over 16 years ago. My organization started out as a LLC. We're now a nonprofit for the last 5 years.
Excellent.
Very grateful, and that has everything to do with my self-care, my intentionality, the faith, and also sticking to our mission, not just sticking to what funders say or don't say or fund or don't fund, really sticking to the survivorship of the people. I just never saw a black woman or a black face talking about sexual violence or domestic violence. So God created it through me, and we've been here planting seeds for the last 16 years. But what I'm seeing more and more, Beverly, is, again, the teens. Our teens that's dealing with the dating violence, right? February is actually Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Some people don't even know that. It's not just Black History Month.
Yeah.
1.3 million of our teens in the U.S. is dealing with dating violence. And that goes from domestic to sexual to cyber, so it's things like that that's happening. And at this per moment. We're inside of schools, group homes. We speak on multiple boards. 72 counties of Wisconsin is dealing with sex trafficking. So just always being at the pulse of things, bringing that other energy. Not the down and out, woe is me, I'm burnt out energy. Team Teal never has that.
Yeah.
We always have the effortless, thriving energy, because in this anti-violence work, you don't see that a lot. So we do that top notch. And I'm grateful that God uses me in that way that keeps our mission integrity driven.
For you, because you have had this experience, and I don't know how young you were, and I don't know what you feel comfortable revealing.
Oh, no, definitely, Beverly.
But, you know, being in that, does it... well, you've been in this so long, but sometimes repeating the story and telling about it kind of brings up things. Have you gone beyond that point, or sometimes there is a little trigger? Or
Yeah, and that's like the stages of surviving, right? You go from victim, survivor, to thriver. And there used to be a moment when I would cry about my story, right? But now I'm dealing with people where we both can't cry. You know, the survivor and I can't cry at the same time.
She's trying to comfort you, right?
So it's understanding coming from a full cup.
Yeah.
And that conversation doesn't happen all the time. And that's where advocacy and wellness are friends.
Yeah.
They're not separate. You know, if you're doing advocacy, you need to be well. You need to take care of yourself so that when you do get triggered, you can make sure that you use your resilience. Because, again, yes, I was molested as a child, raped as an adult, and then went into domestic violence relationships up until I was 29.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm 45 and a mother of a 6-year-old. So I'm grateful just to have that journey, right? And understand that, yes, when you are in this vulnerable state, even as an adult, you can have unhealthy relationships. And that's why, again, one of our biggest foundations with Team Teal is talking about the unhealthy versus healthy relationships. Because once you're able to know the difference of those two, you can balance more when it comes to triggering and coping. And creating those healthy relationships, because a lot of us, you know, don't know what healthy is because we were born in violence.
Right.
And then that was clapped as if unhealthy was the way to live. And now it's not so much as learning. We have to unlearn so much that we were taught. That's just like self-care. If you ask men or black women over the age of 45 about self-care, they know about it. But it didn't start until maybe 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big Mama wasn't talking about self-care.
Right.
The aunties on the porch wasn't talking about self-care. But now we're pushing that mental health into the conversation. So if I'm not healthy, anything that I'm pouring out isn't going to be healthy. So that's very important to take care of myself as a thriver, as an executive, as a mother, as an advocate. Because if I'm not good, anything I'm pouring out ain't good.
Yeah. And Shawn, Brother Shawn, as you're affectionately called,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, she touched on something, whereas it's knowing the difference between a good and a bad relationship. And you work with men who are perpetrators of
Yes, ma'am.
domestic violence.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would imagine that for a lot of them, the examples that they had were not very good.
Absolutely. You know, to horseback off of what Sam said, you know, I'm not going to piggyback. Cause,
Come on. We'll do that with no pig. Come on, brother.
you know, but, you know, I teach them that they have to unlearn their behavior. Most of what we perpetrate is just learned behavior. It's what we've seen growing up. It's what we've experienced, you know, and we think that is right.
Yeah.
It's all that we know, you know. They don't know anything else. So I have to show them a different picture, you know, and I have to put into them something that they're not used to getting, something that they may never heard of before, something that they never experienced before. I have to model a different behavior, and I have to give them different knowledge to replace what went in before.
You know, when I talked about the numbers, and for women of color, they're twice as likely to be killed by an intimate partner than a white woman. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, where there's no death and the violence, there is that violence. And I'm just wondering, why so high? Why is there such a difference? Some of the things that might be fueling that. Is it poverty? Is it cultural? What is going on?
It's all of that.
Yeah.
It's poverty, some of the music that we listen to, get desensitized by things that are going on social media, certain movies that we look at, you know, it's all of that. It's a combination of all of that, you know. And we have to, you know, the scripture says it like this: our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? So if they're an empty vessel, what they're seeing on social media is what's filling them up. What they're listening to in their on their ride to school, videos they're watching, that's what's filling their cup, you know. And whatever comes in is going to come out, you know. And a lot of it, what's going in, is negativity.
Yeah.
And I would have to agree with my brother right here, because, and also what's going on in the homes is very much unsafe, right?
Absolutely.
Because people are dealing with financial abuse, and they don't even know it's financial abuse and domestic violence, because if one person is controlling all the funding in the house, got the keys to the car, got the food in the refrigerator, so where are you going to go?
Right.
So,
And that's a big thing of, you know, people will say, well, why don't you leave? Why are you still there? But there are a lot of factors.
Beverly,
Number of
one of the
factors.
biggest things is having a plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you're dealing with a domestic situation, the first thing your abuser is looking for you to switch up.
Right.
Don't you switch up that routine.
Right.
Don't you pack a bag and run out with the kids. You know, I know so many
when
stories
you're in the
like
most
that.
danger.
That's when you're in the most danger, and then you call one of us, and you know what, Beverly, we don't have a shelter for you to go to.
Right.
So we don't. Now that's the biggest problem.
Right.
Why so many stay and deal with what
Right.
they're dealing with, because they get out, right? And then they call one of us, and I say, hey, I don't have a bed. I've called all the
Right.
shelters that I know.
Right.
Some individuals have to turn around and go back to their abuser because we
Right.
don't have anywhere to send them.
Right.
Me and Brother Shawn can't open up our home. We wish we could, but we
Right.
don't have that kind of capacity, right?
Right,
So
right.
that's a bigger state, citywide situation that we
Absolutely.
really need to wrap our hands around for domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking.
Right.
We need somewhere for these victims and survivors to go when they reach out. They need to know that there is a place, because so
Absolutely.
many, they're like, where do we go, Sam? Who do I call?
Right, right. And then, you know, most victims are different. It's not like one size fits all. You have some victims who may be religious and say, hey, I don't want to divorce my husband. Some victims may just love him. You know, they just want the violence to stop. Some may say, I'm staying because of the children. Some may say, hey, this is the breadwinner. I don't have any money. If I leave, what am I going to do? You know, so it's a number of reasons why women stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And men too,
And men too.
because that's big, right,
Yeah.
Brother Shawn? Because so many of our black and brown men are dealing with domestic situations, and they don't know who to tell because so many people laugh at them.
Absolutely.
You know, they say, what do you mean you're dealing with domestic violence? What do you mean you were sexually assaulted? So understanding that gender, too, and having that open conversation of safety is really important, so that more black and brown men can report and let people know what they're dealing with in their homes with their partners, because that's really important, because that conversation gets rolled out, too, when it comes to our men and young boys.
Yeah.
Right.
Does it look the same?
It doesn't, and that's why we need men like Shawn and other men in the anti-violence movement, where men feel safe enough.
Yeah.
They might talk to me because of the social capital that we have, because of the relationship that we have.
Right.
But once it comes to healing, I need to introduce this survivor male to another male that's going to help him.
Absolutely.
Because I'm a woman still. And men need to help men. And men need to advocate with men, right?
Absolutely.
Without it being a shame.
Right,
Because that
right.
comes up a lot. And I have to educate men, and they'll say, you know what, Sam, I'm sorry for laughing, because someone might be listening on the airways that's a survivor, that's a male, and now everyone's laughing, or they're not considering males to be survivors.
Absolutely.
Right,
You know,
right.
that's one of the things that Miss Antonia Drew Norton, the founder of the ASHA Project,
Love her.
she's very adamant about men working with men, women working with women. And, you know, in terms of victimization, of course, but where I come in, most of the time I'm holding men accountable. So most of the men that I deal with are perpetrators. The majority of our victims are overwhelmingly female, and the majority of the perpetrators are overwhelmingly male, unfortunately. And she said something that stuck with me. She said that domestic violence stops when men say it stops. And she said that I need black men to hold other black men accountable.
Yeah.
Right? So I took that as my particular part of the mission that I'm going to hold up, And that's what I've been doing. I've been going to black men, trying to raise awareness, And of course, you don't get, if we can't get funding for shelters, we can't get funding for prevention.
With the black man.
Right.
Right. We're going to take a little pause right here. We're going to take a break, come back, and talk a little bit more about, the funding, what's happening with all that, what we can do. A lot to discuss. Stay with us. You're listening to the 411 Live. We'll be right back.
Okay, so before we come over, can I ask a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have a dog, but she's little.
Do you have any unlocked guns around the house?
We do have a gun, but it's stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, of course. So does Friday work?
Sounds good to me.
All right, we'll bring pizza.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I was depressed in ways I never imagined. Reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
Welcome back to the 411 Live. My guest, Samantha Collier, founder of Team Teal 365, and Brother Shawn,
Yes, ma'am.
who is Associate Director of the ASHA Project. We were just talking during the break, and I had it, you mentioned it, and I had it in my notes to be sure and say something about that, because Team Teal 365 is rooted in the phrase, I believe you. Why are those three words so important?
Because there's so many survivors that's never heard those three words. And sometimes that's all they really need is to be believed. Because so many survivors across the anti-violence movement, from sexual assault, domestic violence, and trafficking, they always have been told, I don't believe you, and you're lying, and then there's victim shaming and victim blaming. And so for us with Team Teal, we just automatically believe you. Because we want you to be believed. We want you to know that you are supported, and then whatever healing and treatment or direct services we're doing, we continue to do that, but we want people to know that they're believed so that they can know that this is a safe space.
Absolutely.
Right? And we care.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's so important.
Many times African-American victims are re-victimized because the system doesn't always believe us. The line of questioning that they may get is not the same line of questioning that a traditional victim may get. So we're distrustful of systems because of that.
Right.
And we won't access systems because of that.
So we're suffering in silence.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, because I think about, something happens, whereas maybe the victim is not calling the authorities, but somebody else, the neighbor, somebody else calls, and the authorities come and they arrest the man, and then they're upset because that victim will not testify against him.
Right.
So then there's that where they're going to prosecute no matter what. But before that, I think people need to understand what domestic violence is. Right. Now, one part definitely is physical. But when the example you just made, say, for instance, me and Brother Shawn is having an argument in our apartment and it's really, really loud, and Mrs. Johnson down the hall calls the police.
Yeah.
When the police arrives, it's domestic because, A, we live together.
Right.
B, if we have a child, that's another form of domestic because we're living together with the child. Regardless if there was a physical altercation, it's already domestic.
Right.
Because we live together or we have a child together.
Okay.
And now the police is involved.
Right.
So that's really, explaining that to people never gets old because they immediately think that it's physical when it comes to domestic.
Right.
But when you have the same living situation or you have a child, you don't have to throw a cell phone at a person or punch them in the face. It's automatic domestic because you're living together.
Right. And then, you don't want to dismiss the emotional and mental abuse as well, So there are a lot of different branches on the domestic violence and domestic abuse tree,
Right.
And, even with the example that you gave, many times, the police could come and the victim goes to jail. Because, they may take her or assume that she's the primary aggressor because she's being belligerent. She may cuss out the police. You know what I mean? And they take her to jail and charge her.
Wow.
And that has happened.
Yeah.
That's why ASHA exists. ASHA exists because we understand our culture, I could come to that same scene and know what's going on because I understand our culture, But someone outside of our culture, they may not be able to assess that properly.
Right.
Right.
And for the victim of domestic violence, if the the judicial system gets involved, they're saying, how are you helping me? The victim might be thinking, how are you helping me?
Right.
Because if you put him in jail, okay, he's in jail.
Right.
If he was the breadwinner, I may lose the apartment.
Right.
Or
he may
if
even be on a lease.
or maybe on a lease, or it could be that it's a fine or something he gets back, but he's kicked me out or he's coming after me. There are all these dynamics, whereas what I really need from you is find me a house, find me some housing.
Right.
Where can I go? That really helps me more so than you putting him in jail.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, at the ASHA Project, we do that. Team Teal 360, she does that. But to be honest, probably by June, July, my resources are dried up.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
We don't have enough hotels that'll access free shelters for victims. Just in the city of Milwaukee alone, we have umpteen blocks that is deciment. There isn't houses that are unlivable. They need to give them to us.
Yeah.
The city, the mayors, and all these other politicians, they need to make waves for the survivors. Because they're dying at a rapid rate. We don't have anywhere to send them, and the shelters are scarce. It's a state of emergency every single day.
Yeah.
Without housing, because so many agencies, we don't have the access.
Right.
The city does, the state does. They just have to open up that capacity for the people who really need it, who are the Black and brown community.
Right. And I mean, this is really situation critical.
Yeah.
We have to be creative in how we deal with this and how we tackle this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What can people listening, what can we do?
One of the biggest things I try to tell people is take care of your house. Mm-hmm. If you know people in your family or in your surrounding areas that need things, check on them. Yeah. Make sure your circle is okay. Because if you make sure your circle is safe and healthy, that's going to come out in the community. Right. We need homes that's safe. We need people that's working together, right? Really asking questions about healthiness. Really asking your teens about these different relationships and kickbacks. Mm-hmm. Where are you going? Who's there? Different attitudes and behaviors in people. Watching who's calling on the phone and FaceTiming and the time that they're spending.
Right.
No person should be calling me 72 times a day. Let me breathe.
Yeah.
Let me breathe a little bit. So it's just different things like that we can do individually, which will come to a community-driven space, right?
Right.
And get your healing. Get your individual healing. Reach out to the agencies that's here. Team Teal, ASHA, and if we don't got it, we can definitely hand you off to someone else that can help you.
Right.
A licensed professional, something like that. We don't have to keep living in silence, in silos.
Right.
Come outside, because y'all outside.
No doubt.
Because y'all coughing, so somebody outside. So come on outside and tell us.
We take donations, too.
We do. Now, we definitely take
we
all.
We don't have to just take federal, city, or, municipality type money.
We take corporate.
We take
unrestricted,
corporate money.
Definitely unrestricted funds we take.
If you don't have a church home and you want to tie to the ASHA Project, you can do that.
That's good.
I mean, everything helps.
Right.
Every little bit helps.
Where do they get in touch with ASHA? And
so
ASHA,
the ASHA Project is located on 3719 West Center Street. Of course, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that's 53210. You can reach us at 414-252-0075. And I'm serious about donations as well. Send us a check. I mean, if we don't take care of us, who is going to take care of us?
Yeah.
If our funding is cut, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop working.
Right.
You know, this is my life's work, you know. So I'm going to continue to push through regardless of if we get funding or not. But we ought to be able to rely on us. We shouldn't have to look for people outside of our community to do for us what we can do for ourselves. We just have to shift our thinking when it comes to that.
Yeah.
That's good. And yes, Team Teal 365. You can find us on all social media outlets at Team Teal 365. Again, you can email us as well at teamteal365@gmail. And we too are a nonprofit 501c3 accepting donations at all times. You can just tap into our website as well at teamteal365.com. And yeah, we're available. We're everywhere that we need to be, and the places that they don't want us to be.
And
Because,
look, you see, the old man forgot about the social media platforms and the websites. That's how long I've been doing it, Ms. Beverly. So our website is ashafamilyservices.org, right? And ASHA is ASHA. And you can, you know, we're on Instagram,
all the social media.
Facebook, Twitter, or X now. You know, I'm not that square. It's X now. But yeah, you can reach us on all the social media platforms and our website as well.
Definitely.
Some people are listening to you and they know you by a different name, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me.
So, you know, a lot of people in the community know me as Brother Gat. Gat Turner is my hip-hop moniker. So I've been doing music as long as I've been doing this. Well, much longer, actually. And, you know, I had a measure of success, but I would say that I'm more of a raptivist, you know, than I am just a rapper. You know what I mean? Even with the this right here, the community code of conduct, I was able to press these things up, and you know, the 8 steps of atonement. I was able to press this up, but from sales from my recent project, you know, and I've always done that. Whatever money I've made off music that I've made, I've used it for the mission.
Where can they tap into your music?
Okay, I'm on, you know, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Music, all of the social media platforms, but I actually sell it, and you can go download it at my Bandcamp site, so which is Bandcamp, bandcamp.com/Gat Turner, GATTURNER.
Excellent.
Yes,
Excellent.
ma'am.
Listen, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
I hope people who are in this situation, who might be victims, can listen and know that there's a place to go, somebody to talk to. And for people who, you know, this is not an issue for them, the awareness is huge. You know, because probably somebody around them is going through this.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you both.
Thank you.
I
Thank you to
appreciate
your listeners too. We believe you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So my guest, Samantha Collier, who is the founder of Team Teal 365, and Brother Shawn Muhammad, who is the associate director of the ASHA Project. Go to their websites, look at it, and like they said, you can donate, you can help them. So I thank them, and I thank you for listening to another episode of the 411 Live. Remember, we are a nonprofit organization, so if you're so inclined to partner with us, go to our website, the411live.org. And we just love bringing people who are doing fantastic things in this community, like these two people, and you can support us in doing that. Until next time, I'm Beverly Taylor. This is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. God bless. If you would like to check out past episodes, there are many ways. Go to your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like and watch us on Facebook. Watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have suggestions for future episodes, go to our website, the411live.org.